What if you could turn a simple sentence into a full video with voiceover, animation, and visuals in just seconds and without even opening a video editor? In this video, I'm going to show you how you can build your own AI-powered video generator using Python, Flask, ChatGPT, and JSON to video. Let's go. So this is how it works. You enter a prompt and then you click this button to generate the video. In the background, it's going to query ChatGPT to convert this prompt into some structured scenes, and then it triggers JSON to video so that it can generate an automated video for us. And finally, we use Flask to bring everything together. So let me play this video so you can see how it looks.
Staying hydrated during summer is crucial for your health. It helps regulate body temperature and keeps your energy levels up. Remember to drink water regularly, even if you don't feel thirsty. Your body will thank you.
As you can see, we have two different scenes with voiceover, images, and some animations. So let's start with setting up our Flask application. So I've created a new project in PyCharm. I've given it a name, which is Video Generating App. And I've created three different files in this project. So we've got keys.py, we've got app.py, and finally we've got index.html. So we're going to start with app.py because I guess this is the most important module and the actual driver of the Flask application. So let me go through this in more details so you can see how everything hangs together. So we're importing JSON, the regular expression library, and then we're importing a bunch of attributes from the Flask library. So we import Flask, render template, request, and JSONify. Then we import requests, and finally we import the OpenAI library. We also import the key from JSON to video. So I will explain later how you can basically get your own JSON to video API key, which is used to basically authenticate you when you want to generate a new video. And after this, what we do is we're setting up our Flask application by instantiating this Flask module, and then we're giving it the current name. Then we're defining some attributes at the top. So this is the JSON to video main URL. And after this, what we have is this OpenAI client. So what we do is we make an instance of OpenAI and we pass the API key. You can get your own API key by going to the OpenAI platform and you can sign up. And after this, you can generate your own API key. So let's scroll down in this project and you can see we have a main function in here which actually runs the Flask application. So it's calling app.run and then debug is set to false in this case. You can set debug to true while you're developing this Flask application so that you can basically modify your functions and all the changes will be automatically picked up. You don't need to actually restart or rerun the application. So once the application has been set up, what we define next is basically some routes which will be called by either the Flask application or our frontend. So this is the index route, which is basically defined by this /, and it only takes a get method. So what this does is basically when you hit the main URL of our localhost page, it's going to render this index.html. And yeah, that's pretty much the index page. So let's look at the actual contents of the index page. So let me just go through this quickly. So obviously we define the title of the page, then we add some styling here. and then we're defining the main contents of the page. So as you saw in the short demo at the beginning of this video, we have a title, and after this we have a text area where people can enter their video idea, and we also have a button which is called generate video. And yeah, so we have a function that's attached to this button, and basically this is like action listener, which will be triggered when the button is clicked. And after this, we have this video container, which is a placeholder. So by default, it doesn't contain any elements, and this component will be populated dynamically. So whenever a new video is generated, after you press this generate video button, then the video is going to be added to this container. So let's look at the actual JavaScript. So as I mentioned before, the button generate video has an action listener, which is a function called create video. And what does this function do? So basically it extracts the prompt that the user has typed in, and then we perform some validations just to make sure that the user has actually entered something into the text box. And after this, we perform a post request, and we're calling this create endpoint. So what we do in here is basically we create some headers, which is basically application JSON. So that's the content type. And after this, we pass the body, which is the actual prompt. And yeah, so after this, we basically get the response and we parse this. So if the response has a project ID in it, then we start polling. Otherwise, we're raising an exception, or actually, we're displaying an alert so that the user can see that something went wrong. And so, yeah, so the way this works is basically we hit this create endpoint, and if the request was successful, what is going to happen is it's going to return a project ID. And using this project ID, what we do next is we're polling. So basically, the project ID will be unique for each video that you create in JSON to video. So once you submit a request in the JSON to video API, what it's going to do is it's going to return a project ID, and then what you need to do is using this project ID, you can query for the status of the video. So you can keep polling using this project ID to see when the video is going to be ready. Because as you can imagine, when you submit a request to generate a new video, it takes some time for the video to be generated. It's not like an instant magical thing that happens on the fly straight away. So it takes roughly about a minute to generate a video with 2 or 3 scenes. And yeah, you can basically include all the animations, voiceovers, and all the bits and pieces that the JSON to video API supports. So what this is doing, poll for status. So if we look at this, it's basically setting an interval, and it continuously hits this endpoint, which is status, and then the project ID is a dynamic variable, because every time we generate or every time we submit a request to generate a new video, then the project ID is going to be different. And again, we're checking the response. And when you hit this endpoint, it's going to return different statuses. So you can see that when the status of a given project ID is set to done, then we basically clear the interval and we display the video. Otherwise, if we get an error in the status, we basically display an alert and the actual error message. So in most cases, when you get this error status in the from the status endpoint, What this means is that you probably made a mistake with the actual JSON structure that's used to create a video in JSON to video. So we will go through how we can build this JSON structure dynamically using our prompt in a second. And yeah, so basically we poll for a response every 3 seconds. So yeah, so you can see 3000. So that's in like milliseconds. And yeah, we have this function which is display video. So this display video is called in this function. And yeah, so what this does is basically it's referring to the video container, which is the placeholder component that we looked at just a moment ago. And what this does is it creates a new element of type video. It sets the URL, and then it's adding some controls so that you can play the video. And yeah, finally, it's adding the video to the actual video container so that you can see the new component on the screen. And yeah, that's pretty much our index.html page. So let's look at the other two endpoints that we have defined in our Flask application. So it's going to be create, and then the other one is the endpoint for checking the status of a given video. So as I mentioned before, we basically when the user presses generate video, the button generate video, then this endpoint is going to be hit. And what happens is we retrieve the prompt from our text box on the screen. And after this is the interesting part. So what happens is we need to generate different scenes based on the prompt that the user has typed in. And yes, so we have defined this function, which is generate scene JSON. So if we look at this function, so what it does is basically it's making a call to OpenAI, and it's passing this massive prompt, and it tells OpenAI what it needs to do. And basically what this prompt does is in just a few words, it basically tells OpenAI to generate a JSON structure using the following examples. And yeah, so basically, what OpenAI is going to do is it's going to return JSON structure with some fields populated, and then we're going to use this JSON structure to send it to JSON to video, and then JSON to video is going to read this JSON structure, and then based on that, it's going to generate a video for us. So you can read this prompt in your spare time. But yeah, so what we need to do is we need to basically tell OpenAI to include image prompt, image model, and then yeah, there's some fields where you can play around with the animations, like you can zoom in, you can zoom out. There's some basically bits and pieces that you can play with, and these are all provided from the JSON to video API. And also you can set the voice in your videos, and Azure is basically one of the options which you can basically pick for your voiceover. And this option is free, and I believe you get around 50 minutes per day. And yeah, you can use it for testing purposes. And yeah, once you're ready with your application, then maybe you can think about how you can either pay for Azure, or you can use 11 Labs or any other voice platform that is supported by JSON to video. And yeah, so once we have this prompt, what we do is we are basically sending this to OpenAI. And I'm using GPT-4o Mini as the model. So in your case, if you're happy, you can use GPT-4o or any other model. So I'm using GPT-4o Mini because it's quite fast and it's also not too expensive. So basically, for the work that it does, yeah, it's pretty good. So once we have the JSON string that has been returned from OpenAI, what we need to do next is we need to perform some basically pre-processing of this JSON string because OpenAI is adding some, let's say, unnecessary information or information that's going to basically break the video generation in JSON to video. So what we need to do is basically we need to format this JSON string so that JSON to video understands the format. So what we're doing here is basically we're removing this text from the string, which is JSON, and then we have this pipe, and we're also stripping any basically like white spaces from the beginning and from the end of our string. And after this, what we do is we basically parse the string into JSON. So we use the JSON module and we say JSON.loads. And what this does is basically it converts this string into a JSON format. And we print this scene data just for debugging purposes, so you can see it in your shell. And if there's any issues with converting this string into JSON, then we're going to basically raise an exception and we're going to print the actual error in the shell. So if we have created JSON, basically a JSON dictionary successfully, then the next step is to create the payload, set up the headers, and last but not least, send a request to JSON to video. So what we do is we create this dictionary. It has one element, which is scenes. And then what we do is basically from the scene data, we extract the scenes, and the scenes, they're going to contain all the information needed by JSON to video to generate the video of our basically based on our prompt. And after this, we set the headers. So the headers, they will have two different elements. So one of them is going to be content type, which is set to application JSON. And the next element is X API key. So this key is linked to your account in JSON to video. And yeah, as I said before, I'm going to explain to you how you can generate this API key so that you can make your application work. Otherwise, you will not be able to generate any videos if you don't have this API key. And yeah, so next what we do is we're using the requests API or request library so that we can send a post request to JSON to video. And yeah, we have defined this JSON to video base at the top of this module. And then we basically send the request to the movies endpoint. We pass payload in the JSON field, and we also set the headers. So if basically we're validating the response, if the status code is not 200, then we basically return an error that will be displayed to the user on the screen. And if the response was successful, then it's going to contain this project, which is an actual project ID. So what we do is basically return the project ID, and then we use this project ID to do the polling, just to basically make sure that we keep on checking until the video has been successfully created. And last but not least, we have this final function, which is called check status. And the root for this function is status forward slash project ID. So as you can guess, first we call the create endpoint. It returns a project ID, and after this we call the status endpoint, and we pass the project ID, and we keep on polling just to get the status for the video that we have requested. And yeah, so this function is kind of similar to the previous one. It's just that we're not calling OpenAI in this case because we don't need to generate any prompts or any information anymore. So what we do in here is we set the headers. So in this case, the headers is just a single field, and this is JSON to video API key. And after this, we're calling this endpoint in JSON to video by passing the project ID and the headers. So this is going to return a response of type JSON, and then we're basically extracting the status for this particular video behind the project ID. And yeah, we're checking to see what we got for the status. If the status is done, then we return status done, and then the actual URL where we can find the video. If we got an error in the status field, then we basically return an error message. And otherwise, we just say that, yeah, the video is still in progress, and yeah, it's still being processed. If you want to start using JSON to video, what you need to do is you need to go to this website, jasontovideo.com, and then you need to sign up. It's completely free to sign up, and you also get some free credits which you can use to test the application before you decide to start paying for it. And yeah, so once you have signed up, what you need to do is you need to click on this button, get your API key, or once you're inside your JSON to video dashboard, what you need to do is basically you need to click on API keys, and then there is a button called generate API key, and you can also see your current API key if you have generated one already. So I'm not going to click on this button, obviously, because you will see my API key. And you can also see your remaining credits. So let me just click on this and see how many remaining credits I have. So you can see that by default, when you sign up, you get you get 10 minutes. So you can basically create 10 minutes worth of videos, and depending on your prompts and your requests, you can either exhaust all the 10 minutes in one go, or you can basically spend some time testing the platform, like with just one or two scenes to start with. And once you're confident that your application works as expected, then you can increase the number of scenes. And then obviously this is going to increase the total duration of your video. And yeah, your credits are going to start going down. But yeah, you can obviously top up credits, or you can get an actual subscription for this application. And just like that, we have built an AI-powered video generator using Flask, OpenAI, and JSON to video. If you found this helpful, please hit the like and subscribe button below for more AI and automation content. Let me know in the comments what prompts you would use, and I might feature your idea in my next video. If you want to get access to this Flask application and the actual OpenAI prompts that I've used behind the scenes, you can sign up to my school community. The link should be down below in the description. It's completely free to sign up, and you'll get access to plenty of resources, and you'll also get to spend time with like minded people like you.